Welcome. I'm Alice Newland. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Manatee County, and I'd like to welcome you to the Women's Equity Day Luncheon, our Manatee, Sarasota annual celebration of the enactment of the 19th Amendment on August 26, 1920. Yay! And I'm going to propose two toasts. So make sure your water glasses are filled. I'm going to go like this. I'm sorry I can't turn it into wine. The official beginning of the American suffrage movement was the Seneca Falls Convention on Women's Rights, and the most controversial provision was women's suffrage. It took 72 years and the efforts of thousands to get the political might to pass an amendment that would just give women their rights as a citizen, the right to vote. It took all kinds of women, the rich, such as Alva Vanderbilt Belmont, who spent millions on the movement, and the working class, such as the women of the Equity League of Self-Supporting Women. It took white women and it took black women with their many suffrage clubs, and also people like Crusader and journalist Ida B. Wells, who in the 1913 Washington, D.C. parade was asked to go to the back with the colored delegation. She stood with the spectators and inserted herself in with her Illinois delegation. She would not be a second-class citizen even for her sisters in suffrage. So, ready? With deep gratitude, I give this toast to the women. Hey. Okay, my second toast is to some other unsung heroes, the men. Come on, they did help and they get no credit for it. Their support took all forms. Frederick Douglass, at that Seneca Falls convention, swayed the group to accept women's suffrage because it was so radical to give votes to women. Senator Aaron A. Sargent first introduced the 19th Amendment in 1878. It was reintroduced every year for 42 years. To the men's suffrage groups and to husbands, such as the husband of Lucy Stone, when he heard her speak, he devoted himself not only to her, but to her cause for life. And to the 359 men of Congress and Senate that voted yay to the 19th Amendment. With deep gratitude, I give this toast to the men. Now, I'd like to introduce our honorary host, Jenna Overstreet. She's Executive Director of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Ringling, and under her stewardship, the lifelong learning has grown for us seasoned adults, and we have a lot more education and enrichment in Manatee and Sarasota County through lifelong learning. Jenna?
Thank you, Alice. Hello, everyone. I first just want to say I am so grateful that in this most fantastic of all years that I was offered the opportunity to be the honorary chairperson. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I've been a feminist all my life, and what that means is that I'm a human being who is a woman, and and I just think we all are equal, and you know, I'm grateful that it is starting to happen. It's not over, so, and we have a long way to go, but we've made great strides in 100 years, and I think that 100 years from now, I hope that they'll look back and think that all of us did something great to push this forward. So, it is my honor to introduce to you our speaker for today. And after graduating with honors from the University of Miami, Judge Erica Quartermain practiced in federal court, in county court, and in the state's attorney's office of Sarasota County. Since her appointment to the bench in 2013, Judge Quartermain has presided over criminal and civil courts in Sarasota County. But what I learned in preparing to introduce her was that she has her own unique idea of justice. She sees herself not just as an employee of a delivery system of justice, but as an advocate for those who are in her courtroom. She believes in problem-solving justice. She not only delivers sentences, she works to reduce the chances of ever seeing that person in her courtroom again. She's a proponent of problem-solving courts, especially the comprehensive treatment court, which seeks to assist the seriously mentally ill with resources. Furthermore, she has helped to start the Turn Your Life Around court for those women who primarily have been in prostitution, as well as victims of human trafficking, by treating underlying issues of trauma and addiction. This is the kind of judge we need. What a wonderful, what a humane way to look at the people who are standing in front of her who are in trouble. She lectures frequently on problem-solving courts and the intersection of mental health and the criminal justice system. She serves as a faculty member for the Conference of County Judges and as an adjunct professor at the University of South Florida. Our featured speaker is a woman, a mother, an attorney, a judge, and a game changer. Please welcome Judge Quartermaine.
That was really nice. Thank you all for being here. This is a great group, big group, and we're here to celebrate the 99th anniversary of the women's right to vote. I am going to venture to say that none of you here have an independent recollection of that. But the reality is it wasn't that long ago. Between then and now, it is a hairline on the timeline of humanity. And certainly that demarcation did not end the lack of gender equality. And it actually didn't even end the lack of express laws which discriminated against women. I'm 41, so for the people who are here who are younger than me or around my age, I want to give you an idea of exactly how short it is that we have had laws that are non-discriminatory. I was sworn in 6 years ago as a judge. It's an investiture ceremony where you're sworn in and there's a gathering afterwards. And at my gathering, at the investiture, a man came up to me and said, "Your great Aunt Martha would be so proud of you." And I knew exactly what he was talking about, and I will tell you, that man was Henry Trawick, and he represented my great Aunt Martha in a free dealer legal proceeding. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it allowed her to own property as a single woman in her own name. So the funny thing was, I know, he was still practicing law at that time. So, I mean, he was there, he drove there. I mean, he was elderly at the time. He was practicing law, and he remembered that, and he knew my great Aunt Martha, who had just passed 6 months prior. She wasn't able to see me become a judge, but she said she knew that it was going to happen, and she was right. So it's pretty clear that it hasn't been that long. My great Aunt Martha was a real trailblazer, a business owner, very independent, and she went on to develop real estate. That was part of that free dealer action. And she just loved everyone. She saw the best in everyone. She was way ahead of her time in a lot of ways. In fact, she opened the first gay bar in Sarasota. Yeah. But she wasn't gay. She loved men. She was married 5 times. But she saw a business opportunity, and that was just the way she was. So she gave, when she passed away, she gave me this stone that I am wearing right now. And if you look in it carefully, you can see a star. There are some stones that do that. And so I think of her when I look at this stone because I think you can see something beautiful inside of everyone and everything. And that was the lecture, the lesson that she gave to me. So I also remember her because she left me all her animals. So they are still with me, and I remember her frequently as a result. Okay. All right, so there were many trailblazers who came after the, the passage of the amendment and the right to vote. And a lot of you here kept that momentum up. I've heard a lot about some of the people who formed this organization, from Judge Moreland and Judge Malucci, and it really is a special group. I am truly honored. I am privileged to be here today. I'm amazed that there are so many people here that would want to listen to what I have to say, or even if you're just pretending to listen, I am honored. So thank you very much. Okay. And I also want to just say, there's no way I can pay it back. I've achieved my goals. I've never felt as a woman that the fact I am a woman would seriously hamper or prohibit me from achieving my goals. So I want to thank you women for that. You were part of the continued momentum. We still have to keep it up, and the only way I can thank you is to pay it forward. So thanks. And I will do that, and I promise. So the invitation to this event says that we should reflect, celebrate, and engage. So I'm task-oriented, and we're going to get to all three of those. In preparation for this discussion, I thought about the key components to my journey and what led me here to be speaking to all of you today. And I also thought about the effect of the fact that I am a woman, how that contributed to my journey, or how it affected my journey. So I think people talk a lot about gender today. And I have to say, I didn't really ever think about gender when I was young. My kids talk a lot about gender identification. They are acutely aware of that, and they're younger, 10 and 13. I never really thought about gender. And I think it's because I didn't have traditional, or maybe one of the reasons is I didn't have traditional gender models. My dad was awarded custody of me when I was 2. Judge Gilbert Smith Sr. handled that proceeding, and it was sort of an anomaly at the time in 1980 that a man was to get sole custody of a child. My mother suffered from a severe alcohol addiction, and my father was the purest, kindest human being I have ever known. So he raised me, and he was my sole caretaker, and the woman was absent. So I think that started my lack of really understanding that, we were, that there was a difference, or that there were traditional models. And then as I've gotten older, I think that sometimes I can see that the way I respond is more like my father, or more in what would call a masculine way in a lot of situations. So the next time I think, the first time I really thought about the gender equality issue was when I took a feminist thought class in college. And the question was posed, well, what is equality? Are women and men the same, or are they different but equal? And in that lesson, in that course, we learned a lot of different theories, but there was one that stuck with me, and it was one from Carol Gilligan, and she wrote a book called In a Different Voice. And if you don't know who she is, she's a feminist, a professor at all really important universities, and Time Magazine called her top 25 most influential people in 1996. So she is a real impressive person, and this book was really moving to me. In the book, one of the things she talks about is Heinz's dilemma, okay? And it was a study that had been done by another psychologist before her. And the question was, whether it was ethical to steal medicine, and Heinz had a wife who was sick, and the only way to save the wife was to get this medicine to her, otherwise she would die, and he could not afford the medicine. So is it okay to steal the medicine? Well, another psychologist and researcher named Kohlberg analyzed the differences of the responses to that question between 11 and 12-year-old girls and 11 and 12-year-old boys. And his conclusion was that women are not as ethically developed. I'm just saying. Because the boys came to the conclusion that stealing is wrong. And the girls questioned the hypothetical. Why can't he afford it? Why can't he talk to the pharmacist? And that wasn't viewed as a response. And whatever, and I'm going to oversimplify Carol Gilligan's response, but she said no, that there are two different separate and independent thought processes. One is more masculine, one is more feminine, and in order to achieve the greatest potential as a human being, you have to incorporate both. And so, I didn't come up with it. And one of them she called the ethics of justice. That was the more masculine thought process. That is the rule, principle directed, the focus on integrity, autonomy, and this concept, stealing is wrong, under that hypothetical. And then there was the ethics of care, and that was the more feminine thought process under her analysis. And it was the emphasis on relationships, the context, the focus on a caring response, and the it depends whether it is right or wrong answer to those questions. So she said, neither is right or wrong, neither is immoral, you need to have both. So that always sort of stuck with me. Over my career, I thought about gender a few more times. I think the first time was when I had a baby after working very hard at a law firm, and I was working 60 or 70 hours a week, and I was welcome to go back as long as I continued to work 60, 70 hours a week. So that was tantamount to not being welcome back. I even offered to take a pay cut, and they said they weren't set up that way. So in the end, though, it was a difficult choice at that time, but I left, and I think that every challenge creates new opportunities. And certainly, I wonder, if things had been different, if I didn't have to carry a baby, or I didn't have to stay up late nursing, how that would have affected my ability to maintain that job. And if I had maintained that job, I know that the perception would have been, she's a terrible mother because she's never with her kids. But if a man had maintained that job, he works so hard, he's a provider for his family. So there were other similar experiences. In a moot court competition, one of the judges told me I walked around too much, but that I had nice legs, so it was okay. When I clerked for a judge in Miami named Judge Maxine Cohen-Landau, who was a real inspiration to me, she sat on an appellate panel, and I happened to be watching. It was 3 female judges, and the attorney got up and said, "How do I address 3 female judges?" And if looks could kill, and they said it in unison, unplanned, "Your honors." So then there were a couple of other instances where my friends who had children and didn't work would say, "I'm sorry, you have to work." And I'd say, I love working. I mean, I don't know why you would think that I do this because it's an economic reason, but even if it was an economic reason, I still love working. and it gives me my identity, and it makes me happy. Like, you have your happiness through what you do. But then there were other more ugly things that, you only got this judgeship because of the way you look, or you only were able to succeed in procuring millions of dollars of support for vulnerable people because of the way you look. Is the reason people were interested in listening to you, not because of what I had to say. And those were truly ugly comments that came not just from men and women, okay? So we still have a lot of work to do, but I don't want to get too down in the dumps because things are really, really positive. We have more women graduating now from law school than we have men, and and actually, I think as of next month, we're going to have more female judges than men judges in the 12th Circuit. Some of my co-judges are here with me. I see Judge Moreland, Judge Rule, Judge Inman, Judge Moss. I'm not sure if I see anyone. Judge Belushi, of course, Judge Belushi. So, I'm really excited and proud to work with all of you, and I'm proud of our bench, and I think that we're setting an excellent example of equality on the bench. There's still some challenges in the legal field, certainly, and that is that even though for 30 years we have had at least roughly equal numbers, now it's more women graduating, but for 30 years it's been roughly equal in terms of graduates from law school, but there are fewer women staying in the profession. And in the Florida Bar News last year, there was an article discussing why and what can be done about it. And there were a few reasons. One was called success fatigue. And the women who were interviewed said, well, I have to work harder than my male counterparts, and I'm getting really tired of it. The second one was, I'm tired of being paid less or treated differently. The third one is just sort of a summary of that, which is even if it's not explicit bias, it's implicit bias. An example would be, well, this associate can't go to a work function across the state overnight because she has a 2-month-old baby, so we won't even ask. Whereas, why don't you just ask her and see if she can go? But maybe they feel like it's just the kind thing to do to not even ask. And those are things that aren't necessarily ill-intentioned. So, and then of course there was the continued sexual harassment that drove a lot of people out. But the ABA is going to continue to work on data-driven analysis and make recommendations. So it's just another step, an identification of the issue and another step. But I have a lot of female attorneys in court. I would say they're a little underrepresented in the private bar, but I have a lot of female attorneys in court, and like I said, my contemporary judges are setting a new standard, so I'm proud of them. So the next time, the time that I gave really serious consideration to gender and the differences between men and women was in preparation for this. And before I go into that, I need to tell you a little bit more about what it is that I've done. And when I was sworn in 13, 6 years ago, I knew that there were problem-solving courts around. They'd been around for a long time. They started in Miami in the 90s. And I was seeing a pervasive issue of seriously mentally ill people being incarcerated on low-level crimes. Most of them were homeless. And we were the insane ones as the criminal justice system because we were processing them over and over and over again and getting a worse result constantly. I remembered some of these people from when I was a prosecutor, and all they had done is picked up 50 more convictions for low-level crimes, spent endless days in jail, whereas my life had moved on and I was ascending. They were descending. And it was nonsensical to me how we as a community and as a justice system were processing these people like fungible goods. These were people's children, the sons and daughters of people like you who had, but they had suffered from a mental illness. And when the mental institutions closed a couple decades ago with zero planning for these people, the lag effect was what we see today in homelessness. So being from Sarasota, growing up in Sarasota, and having not seen the same degree of homelessness that I had seen, it all made perfect sense to me that most of these people were suffering from something. They were vulnerable. Not all of them, but most of them. So if we can create a system, and the judiciary is the repository of failed public policy, so they end up on our lap. And where no one has funded the most vulnerable people, and here we are, now that it's on us, and that's why we're gonna do something about it. Just like problem-solving courts developed in Miami in response to the drug issues in the 80s. And then they rapidly spread because they worked. And I believe rehabilitation works. And what is the alternative? Getting worse. So here we are, starting these courts, and then we have the Tyler Court, which Judge Malucci handles in Bradenton, for women who are involved in the prostitution world. Over 90% of those women are subject to the control of someone else. This is not a profession that more than 2% of the people elect to participate in. They are manipulated, controlled, trafficked, and that's over 90% of them. And over 90% of them were abused as children, sexually abused as children. They don't know anything different. And to see these people overcome their trauma and succeed is amazing. And it's like the best part of my job. And we have had a lot of success. There was a woman in Tyler who had been Marchman acted, that's the equivalent of a Baker Act, but for substance abuse, 27 times. But you know what? She's leading a very productive, successful life, taking care of her child, employed, starting another business, and I see her frequently, and she recovered. And people recover. And I will tell you that I am very interested in the statistics because people always want to know, well, what are your statistics? Okay, statistics are really important. The individual stories are really, really powerful, but statistics are important. And since I started the comprehensive treatment program, the point-in-time study indicates a 50% decrease in homelessness in Sarasota over the same 2 years. Over the same 2 years that CTC, or the Comprehensive Treatment Court, operated by Centerstone, and the court have been going. That's not a coincidence. It's not just CTC, but it's also the collaboration of other programs and everyone getting on board with the fact that incarceration doesn't work for these people and that they're vulnerable. There has to be a better way. Arrests are down 50%, okay? That is a big deal. That includes people who are unsuccessful too. So when you look at the program, and we had about 160 people at the time I did the analysis, you look at the program, 65% of the people graduate the program, the other 35% do not. We give them a lot of opportunities, but maybe they're not ready. There's a variety of different reasons. But when you look overall, 50% decrease in arrests, including the people who are unsuccessful. When you look at just the successful people, the number is much higher. But that tells me that even touching services improves their lives, even if they don't ultimately succeed. So, given that the problem-solving court started in the 90s, and I read a book recently about a Judge Morphonius, who was like one of the first criminal judges, female judges in Florida, and she was a fascinating woman. But she explains in her book that there were not female judges up until, the 80s and 90s. It is no surprise to me that problem-solving courts originated in Miami, where that's when they started to have female judges, and they were the leader in this state in the 90s. And that when you look at what problem-solving courts are, it is truly the embodiment of the ethics of care that Carol Gilligan described. We've always had the ethics of justice. That was the masculine part of our law. And then that didn't work for people who were vulnerable. We have to approach them with care and the ethics of care. And that is part of feminist thought. So this is my realization. This is my epiphany. And this is something you all should be proud of. It is not just the entry of women into a profession or the ability to make money. It's the introduction of the way women think and the results that come from integrating a woman's thought processes with existing thought processes and the success that comes from that. And that, to me, is a whole new movement coming for women. And I think that it's only going to get better. All right, so I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. Is not it wonderful to see a room filled with people who believe in suffrage movement? When I came to this country in 1964, I did not know about gender differences because the country I came from already had it in the Constitution, and the religion I belong to has always treated men and women equal. So it's wonderful to see that we celebrate, just like what I said, that we celebrate the struggle of women from the past who have brought us here today, and the women of the present. We need to reflect and see what we have achieved and what needs to be done also. And especially I say, if we have issues like pay equity or health care or anything else, then we should come with the issues and also come with some solutions also in a positive way. I am a very optimistic person, so let's do that, because I'm not going to talk about 2020, which will be our 100 years. That will be done by the next speaker. But we are planning on things happening. And we always say engage. Engage means we need the younger people, girls and boys both, who are going to achieve equality and make us proud also. I won't take too much of your time, but I do have something to present to our guest speaker and honorary chair. And we felt that what could be a better gift than the history book. It says, "They dare to dream, Florida woman who shaped history." I want to tell you one thing. It's not her story or their story. It says the gap in the United States history where the women were left out and it has been filled. So it's a history book, not her story or their story. So I would like our guest speaker to please come. Did not she do a wonderful job? Thank you. Honorary chair. She took her time, but she introduced our guest speaker, and you know her by that she does wonderful things also. I won't take your time much, just 2 more minutes. That in in the program, it might have been mentioned before, but we have proclamations and greetings from National Association of Commissions for Women, Governor's Office, Governor DeSantis, Florida Commission on the Status of Women, League of Women Voters of Florida, and American Association of University Women for Florida. And thank you. We love you.
This is going to be short and sweet. Maybe not so sweet. I'm Ginny Hyman. I'm the president of the Suncoast Commission on the Status of Women. And for those of you that are not familiar, in the last 2 years, we have expanded our commission to include Charlotte, Sarasota, Manatee, Pasco, and Polk counties. Also Pinellas, almost left out Pinellas. Okay. I want to thank everyone that has come here today. I know that talking to you is like preaching to the choir, but what I want you to do is to carry this message forth. This is the year that we must get every woman, from college students to millennials, to workforce women, to everyone, to our elderly in nursing homes and retirement homes. They must all be engaged and be registered and check their registration to make sure it's correct and in order, because they must vote in the next 2 elections. If just all eligible young women vote, we will win every election. Our children and our grandchildren are counting on us to engage everyone and every woman to vote. The SCSW will be partnering with the League of Women Voters in all of the counties to register as many women as possible for the 2020 election. So we'll be showing up at grocery stores, office buildings, schools, colleges, farmers markets, wherever people are gathering. We will make sure we've got somebody there that's qualified to register people to vote. And we don't care what flavor the women are, we want you to vote. In the last election, 62 million people voted one way, 65 million people voted the other, but there were 180 million people that did not vote. It would have made a difference. Okay. When we get women to vote, women win. And if we are going to save our cities, save our state, save our country, and save the planet, it's going to be up to we, the women of the Western world, and the women of this country and this city and this state. Okay, let's talk about next August. All right, next August, we're going to be returning to the Hyatt Regency Sarasota. It'll be for the weekend of the 21st, and it'll be probably a 3-day symposium, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with, of course, the luncheon, the 100-year celebration luncheon, as one of the highlights. Actually, Governor DeSantis is sponsoring, don't say that. Governor DeSantis is sponsoring a Florida Women's Suffrage Centennial Commemoration Committee, of which 3 of us from the SCSW, our names have been submitted. I think there's only a chance for one of us to get on. But nevertheless, he's doing this and he's funding it. And hopefully they will announce who is on the committee within the next week or so. But whether we make it or not, the Florida Commission has expressed an interest in participating with us next year at our celebration at the Hyatt, as well as the National Commission on the Status of Women also intend to send representatives or speakers or whatever we ask them to do and attend the convention also. They are also, the National Association for Commissions for Women will be moving their offices to Washington, D.C., and they're planning a 100-year celebration that they're going to hold in July. So they have the ability to come to us in August, and they're planning on doing that. Now, as usual, we will be hosting the Equity Day Luncheon with participation from the League of Women Voters, from all of the areas, as well as AAUW, and you can see all the AAUW people right across the back of the room here, but there may be from the other counties also. We plan to make announcements very shortly about more definitive plans. And one of the things that we're going to do is start taking reservations as soon as our plans are set in stone. So please follow the Suncoast Commission on the Status of Women Facebook page or our website, because as soon as we've got our plans set, we are going to start taking reservations for sponsor tables, for sponsors, and for people that would like to attend next year. As you know, we are sold out this year, and I can tell you that there were a lot of disappointed people that didn't get in here in time. So now that you have all of the information, I want to invite you all to come again next year. Come attend whatever seminars we are going to have, and if you have ideas for that, or if you have suggestions to what we can do. And I know one of the things that we're going to do is we are going to have a women's concert. We know of several women, young women, who have made it big from this area, including that little girl that sang opera on America's Got Talent. That's from Northport. We're going to invite her and a few others.
You are going to mention survey.
Yes, I'm going to mention the survey. I'm mentioning the survey. The Florida Commission is doing a statewide survey. We did this in 2015, and we found out what the needs are of Florida's women. We are doing one based on theirs, and we're going to be sending it out to the 5 counties that I mentioned. So we're obviously going to be partnering with everyone's organizations that we don't have emails for. But everybody that paid through PayPal, we've got your email. And it will be done in SurveyMonkey, and we would like you to send it back as soon as possible. We'll correlate with the colleges here. We'll correlate our local results and then send them back to the Florida Commission to be included in the statewide results. So be looking for that email, and don't just, throw us in spam or something. It's not going to be long. It's only going to be like 25 questions, but your answers will be very important and critical to determining the needs in this area. The other thing that I would like to mention, and I'm going to close with this, within the last month, Hillsborough County and the City of Tampa, and just last week, the City of St. Petersburg sent a resolution to Governor DeSantis asking him to ratify Florida to be the 38th state to pass the ERA. Wait a minute. I'm not done. We will be coming to Sarasota, Manatee, Pasco, and Polk counties, and Charlotte County, asking the cities and the county to do the same thing. And we'll start with Sarasota. All right, so we're going to get this passed. We're in the running with North Carolina. They're trying to do the same thing too, but I'd rather that Florida brings it across. And then it can become an amendment to the Constitution that we need, the Equal Rights Amendment. that's about it. I'll see you next year. I'm glad everybody had a great time. Enjoy yourself. Stay a little longer if you like. Finish up. Lots of yummy desserts. See you next year.
In 1995, when I was on the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, I met with Dot Riding, who was the publisher of Bradenton Herald and the former national president of League of Women Voters. So we talked about it, that nothing is being done, so let's do something. And that's how we got started with the Manatee Commission on the Status of Women, and then we also asked the League of Women Voters of Manatee County to join. After few years, the Sarasota Commission joined, and also the League joined from Sarasota, and all 4 AAUW members. So we are unique, and I feel so humbled and proud that we are the only county, by county rather, where we have 7 different organizations who are on the planning committee. And then we have host committee, which you look at from every arena of life. Housewives, business, political, and everything else. I mean, educators, you name it, so many to name. And that makes it real nice when we have collaboration and work together for it. What I feel, that one person can do one thing, but when you see this room filled with people, not only in the exhibit room, but in the lunch room also, and you know we are sold out. We had to tell people, sorry, we don't have it, because the place could hold that much. So hopefully next year, we are going to have a larger one in Sarasota, Hyatt, and it's going to be 2 days also, breakout sessions and equity luncheon, and we're going to collaborate like 2015. When METV was there, we had breakout sessions, we had equity luncheon and board meetings, so we are planning, and you'll be hearing more about it. But my main thing I want to add is that the 3 words are very important. One is celebrate. See, we celebrate the struggle of women who have brought us here where we are today. And second is reflect. We need to see what we have achieved and where the gaps are. And I'm not saying about just saying negative and not doing. I say if you come with an issue which is very important to women and families, then come with some solution also, so that we can sit and talk about. And the third point, which is very important, dear to my heart as an educator, is engage. Engage the women and also men who are at present here, not in our counties, at national, international level, and then future generations are very important. That's where we need to pass it on, because they are the one who will make us proud. I think naming a school, I'm one person, but I always believe it's the group of people, and I have dedicated it to the educators of the past, present, and future, and everybody else who believes in education. But it does make you very humble when a school is named after you. But the thing which really touched me was that every ethnic group, a representative from every ethnic group, spoke at school board meeting at the nominating time. It's not like one group, one community. It was like unity in diversity. And that I must have done something in my life, you know. And I always give a credit to my parents and others who paved the way and believed in education. But it really made me very, very humbled.
Women's rights and everything, it's so important. Having the right to vote is such an important thing, because so many things in our government change because of the people that vote, you know? So I think it's really important that women have the right to vote, because a lot of things have to do with women and, you know, women's rights and stuff, so.
I think equal pay is a huge thing that we all should be fighting for. The fact to just be paid the same as any gender, the fact that it is a problem in the society is astounding to me. I think it should be more normalized than it is. So it's amazing that all these people come together to work for that. I've been a Girl Scout for 11, almost 12 years, and it's really helped build me up as a person. I become more comfortable as a public speaker, and it really helps me be more sound as a businesswoman and as a negotiator. I've become more sound in my speaking, so it's really helped me evolve as a person.
I've been a Girl Scout for about 10 years now, and it's just really helped me grow to want to be active and involved in women's rights and having friends and stuff like that. And I've really learned how to take on leadership in ways that I didn't know how to do before. I think it lets you be involved in things that you never get the chance to have and different organizations that you get to meet. And it really helps you feel more confident in yourself than you did before Girl Scouts.
I say don't be afraid to go out there, be confident in the decisions you're going to make. I've done crazy things as a Girl Scout, things that I could never do anywhere else, and it's really helped me be more involved in my community, be a better people person, know how to talk to people. Don't be afraid to do it. Just take it by the horns and go for it. I feel really honored to be invited to come do this, to be surrounded by all these amazing, accomplished women. So it's just really, really cool experience for me to be here.
Yeah, I feel very honored too to be here today, and it really makes me want to do more in women's rights and just help out more and change the world.
First of all, it's a tradition in my life, so it's all about the respect for the day, as well as a very special way of honoring my good friend, Dr. Crystal Harold. We have been coming to this event for, we think, maybe 17 or 18 years, and it's just something that we have on our calendar that's very important to us, and to be able to celebrate with all of these hardworking, conscientious, extremely bright and talented women, it's a gift for both of us.
I think it means that we all are in agreement, that everybody is equal, that we're all wonderful, that women have the same rights as men, that regardless of color, creed, race, religion, whatever, we're all equal. And I think this shows this kindredship that isn't always shown.
I think it's, first of all, critical for absolutely everyone. For women, we have the first opportunity in a very long time of truly being able to turn the tide and have the election go not just our way, not just the woman's way, but the way for all mankind, if you will. I think for women, in this particular time, it's just a tremendous opportunity that we have for humanity.
I totally agree with Sherry. We have, from the beginning of time, we have been a second-class citizen in a lot of people's minds. When women lost their husbands, all their property went to the next male. I mean, that's gone on for so long, so many rights that men have assumed women haven't been able to, we've had to fight for. And now we're fighting again for the right to control our own body. And I think it's important that the women here are voicing their opinion independently, not because their husband or their boyfriend feels that way, because they feel that way. And I think our autonomy is important.
That we have a marvelous opportunity to get better. But we cannot get better without a tremendous effort and a solid solidarity, if you will. We've got to be together and encourage each other. We are here today as women supporting women. We're not competitors. If anything, we compete within ourselves to get better and to get stronger. And I look around and I see this marvelous sisterhood here today, all ages, and I am indeed encouraged. But we've got to encourage each other as women.
I had helped enroll some high school kids, help high school kids register to vote this year. And one girl didn't want to fill the form out, and I said, why not? And she said, our family doesn't vote. We feel it doesn't matter. Why should we do it? And I said, you have the opportunity to register and say what you feel on the items that are on the agenda. You need to be vocal if you want to have an opinion that makes a difference. You can't make a difference if you don't vote. So we're concerned. And I think studies are showing now how many high school kids are registering to vote. And we are so much more aware of what's going on politically than we have in the past because it's always on the news, you know? So I think that makes a difference. So please vote. It's important.
And one more thing, we must vote as not just as an opportunity to let our desires be known, but to honor our foremothers and our forefathers, all of those people who came before us who worked so hard, who basically risked their lives so that we would have this opportunity. It's in honor of them that we're here today, and it's in honor of them that we vote.
Oh, this is huge for us. We represent UN Women. We're the local Gulf Coast chapter of UN Women, and women's equity is what UN Women is all about. We're the gender equity organization around the world, and this sort of celebrates suffrage from 100 years, but women's equity is really a lot more than that. It's economic equity, it's health equity, it's political empowerment, it's so many different things. So this lunch is a great celebration of that. Well, this is always a great lunch, but I think this year it's especially wonderful. I think there's a huge groundswell of events around women these days, and I'm happy to say that there are also men here. I think it's very important that men realize women's things are about all genders. So it's really important, and I think this year we have such a great diversity. I mean, when I see the groups, it's not political, it's across the spectrum, it's everything from the Girl Scouts to the Planned Parenthood to everything. So that part is really wonderful. Well, getting out to vote is the most important, and getting your friends out to vote. And it's very important for people to realize that political participation is more than just voting. You really need to have an active role in our political system these days. Whatever your position is, it's very important that we not be passive about it, that we have to speak up for whatever we feel strongly about. So I recommend a lot of advocacy. Absolute voting, that starts for the bottom. But then get involved in an organization you feel strongly about locally. Sure, we have a website. We're the UN Women Gulf Coast chapter. So look for that, look it up. We're the GCC, otherwise known as, and we'd be happy to hear from more people.
Today is a really important day, not just for women, but for young men like Oscar as we come together and we really pave the future of our community and the future of the world. And I'm very fortunate to know young men like Oscar because not only are they doing their part, but they know the importance of women in changing our community and stepping forward and making sure that we don't lose the traction that we have worked so hard to gain over the last very many years.
I think this year is a milestone in our democracy. It's extremely important. I'm a firm believer in the power of the ballot. So seeing so many people get involved and be politically engaged and acknowledging the importance of a year like this and the importance of not just women but men and people across this country who have the power to vote, to go out there and vote and express their concerns and be active citizens. It's extremely, I take it to heart because I know the power that we collectively have to make change across this nation for each and every one of us. So I'm very excited to be here, and I think it's an important time to talk about issues and to be aware of the power of voting and to be active. So I'm very glad that I was invited. Yeah.
Well, it shows me absolutely that there is a very strong power in the participation that we all have together regionally. It takes people in Sarasota and Manatee counties coming together, working together, and as Oscar mentioned, it's really the participation. It's being in the same space together, it's being willing to have uncomfortable conversations together, and it's having civility in the way that we communicate with each other so that we can move forward to benefit all of the citizens of this country and people who are coming to this country to add to the flavor that we have and the work that we can do for all of us together.
No single person can change the face of this country. It's going to be our collective work that changes the things that we need to change, and it's going to be our active participation that's going to do the things that we need to do. We will not change things just by standing by. So I always tell my friends, voting is kind of like a bus. That bus is going to keep on rolling if you're not there on time. So if you don't vote, your voice isn't going to be heard. If you want your voice to be heard, you have to get out there and voice your concerns and be an active voter and an active citizen. And having those conversations in our community too is direly important to understand one another better. So I tell all my friends, you have to get out there and vote, because otherwise things are just going to stay the same.
You know, Oscar and I are both very active on social media, and someone who we recently heard speak said, you know, good conversations begin on social media, but they should not end on social media. I wish I could tell you who coined that phrase, but we both believe in active participation, that we should be talking about things, but by coming together, voting, encouraging people to explore the issues they should know about, talking to their representatives, that's how the change is going to occur, right, Oscar?
Absolutely.
Listen, my final message is to get all of the information that you can about the issues that you care about. It's very important for us, especially in this day, to find out where information is coming from, find trusted sources, take the time to look at both sides of issues so that when you vote and get involved, it's an informed vote and it's being involved in what that true information is, because that way you can feel really good about whatever vote you make.
Well, I think like the invitation says, that it's important to celebrate what an event that was, reflect on what has occurred since then, which is quite a bit of progress, and reflect on what else we can do to achieve true gender equality, and continue to engage like we have, which is to just set examples as strong women and to work hard and to take care of the children and the next generations. So it's an honor to be here and to be speaking, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Well, I think we can always come together as a community. I mean, there are men here too, people from all different backgrounds. I mean, it's progress in one area. We've got a lot of other areas in this world to cover, but we can always come together. Well, I mean, at this point in time, I think it goes without saying that exercising your right to vote is one of the fundamental precepts of this country and the rights that we have, and engaging in our community. I serve on the canvassing board, and I can guarantee you that your vote is counted and that the elections that I oversee are fair, and I believe that that is the state of the world in the rest of the state and country, maybe with a few exceptions, but I seriously doubt that they are significant in any way. I can almost 99.999% guarantee that your vote is going to be counted, 100% guarantee here in Sarasota.
It's important because we have to remember that we didn't have the right to vote at one time, 100 years ago this year. And it's just a special day for all people, not just women, but everyone, to come together and know that we are all equal and we all have a voice, and we should all exercise our right to vote. Well, SWAT Networking is an organization for women that have a business, a product, a service, and we all come together. We're in 5 cities, in 3 counties, and it's a way that we can bond together, help support each other in business. But what makes SWAT different is that we are a sisterhood, and we pride ourselves on keeping touch with each other, helping each other out in times of need, help celebrate each other. It's just a great, warm feeling, and I hope everyone would like to come and join us and look at our website, swatnetworking.com, and learn more about us. So it's really a feel-good kind of group. I think that here in Manatee and Sarasota counties, we're particularly involved in community. It's a wonderful area that we live in, and most of us want to help. It's a very philanthropic area. I should say that again. It's a very philanthropic area, and we just like supporting each other and helping those that are lesser, and just binding together and coming together to support each other. There's so many great charities here, and it's just a wonderful event every year. I think it's the same message that most people would say, and that is, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain or, not be satisfied with the way things are. That is the way that our voice is heard, and everyone has their own opinion, so it's just really important to exercise that right to vote.
This is the 25th year that we are holding the Women's Equity Day event to commemorate the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Women voting has become increasingly important as they have a large role in our lives, in our workplaces, and in the world. And we need more women leaders. When women vote, women win. And we certainly need more representation in all of our governmental entities by women. And the only way that's going to happen is if the women get out and vote. If every young woman in this country, I'm talking about the college students, the millennials, the moms at home, the soccer moms, everybody, working moms, workforce people, stay-at-home moms, everyone, the younger women, if they all get out and vote, we will carry this nation to where it needs to be. And this is the year to do it. We have 35 different organizations more than 35 organizations that are represented here today that believe in the power of women and the importance of women, and honor us by coming every year to the Women's Equity Day events. We have 25 women's organizations with exhibit tables here today, and this has been pretty much the way it's been for the last 25 years. Now, next year, we are going to be celebrating 100 years that women have had the right to vote, and we're going to have a 3-day conference at the Hyatt Regency Sarasota, and we anticipate having the National Convention and the National Commission on the Status of Women, as well as the Florida Commission on the Status of Women. In fact, Governor DeSantis has initiated a suffragette commemoration committee through the Florida Commission on the Status of Women to especially celebrate this event. So we're hoping that they join us and be part of our huge celebration next year. And we would like as many people as possible and as many organizations that support women and want to show their support for women to join us next year. Everybody, from your 17-year-old granddaughter to your 95-year-old grandma that's in a retired living community, make sure they are registered to vote, that their registration is current, and that they vote in November and in November 2020. Our votes count, and we need to make sure that women win and women have not only an equal say, but if we are going to save our cities, save our state, save our country, and save the planet, it's the women that are going to do it.